devaluation of paper currencies is a real thing.
What is up, guys? My name is Ignas. Welcome back to the channel. We are on the path to find the best companies from materials sector, and today we're looking into gold. A month back, Mark Bristow, the CEO of Barrick Gold, went on Bloomberg Markets to discuss the prospects for the gold industry. This is what he had to say.
This is the honeymoon time after a crisis, where everyone expects everything to be perfect and back to normal. And we saw this post the global financial crisis. Remember, that was 2008, 2009. Peak gold only arrived in 2011. And right now, I think the markets are very differentiated, disparate, and we're going to take some time to really measure the crisis. And gold is that measure. So we've seen the first response. And I would add, Alex, that you saw gold rise through 2019. There was no sign of COVID. It was a concern about the global economy. That hasn't gone away.
So Mark suggests that the economic rebound may not be that quick, and it may still take a year or two for the economy to ramp back up. But then the question is, if some economies are still down, will there be enough demand for gold at all? This is Mark's response.
I think that's a real concern, but also, I mean, what about worrying about what happened around the rest of the world? Because we didn't do a good job managing this crisis anywhere. India, I think what you see there is again, the impact financially. India naturally goes to gold as a safe haven, and I don't see that we'll have a massive impact on the gold industry there, but certainly a tragedy that needs global support. And as far as Africa goes, I mean, Africa is more seasoned as far as managing viruses and pandemics. And so far, they've done a good job. And I can assure you, all of us who are invested there are working with our host countries to ensure that we don't get a replay of what we're witnessing in India.
So the demand is available and the prospects look great so far. With that in mind, for today's comparison, I have picked 3 gold producing companies. These are Newmont Corporation, ticker symbol NEM, Barrick Gold, ticker GOLD, and Franco Nevada Corporation, ticker symbol FNV. In order to make the comparison possible, we will be looking into 8 different factors: analysts' price targets, forward price to earnings ratio, annual revenue growth, price to sales ratio, return on equity, last 4 quarter earnings results, current ratio, and dividend yield. The best company under each factor will get a point, so it is possible to have from 0 to 8 points, and in the end the stock with the most points will be considered the winner of this comparison. I hope that the rules were clear, so let's begin. The first factor are the analysts' price targets. As investors, we want to find how far the current share price is away from the average target of analysts. If the current price is under the average target, we will consider the stock as undervalued, and in the end, the company with share price is furthest away from the average analyst target to the lower side gets a point for this factor. For Newmont Corporation, we have 18 price targets of analysts. They range from the lows of $60 to the highs of $108 per share. The average out of it is $75.75, and the current share price is at $69.28. This means that the current share price needs to go up for 9.3% in order to reach the average target of analysts. For Barrick Gold, we have 20 price targets of analysts. They range from the lows of $21 to the highs of $39 per share. The average is at $29.53, and the current share price is at $22.96. This means that there is still around 28.6% room for the current price to reach the average target of analysts. For Franco Nevada, we have 6 price targets of analysts. They range from the lows of $68 to the highs of $93 per share. The average is at $81.27, and the current share price is at $151.90. This means that the current price needs to go lower for around 46.5% in order to reach the average target of analysts. Results for the analysts' price targets factor are in the table, and with most room for growth, Barrick Gold gets the first point. Second factor is the forward price to earnings ratio. It is calculated by taking the current share price and dividing it by the estimated future earnings per share. It is the standard price to earnings calculation, with the difference that earnings here are predicted by analysts. So in the end, the stock with the lowest forward price to earnings ratio gets a point for this factor. Newmont has a forward price to earnings at 17.9. Forward price to earnings for Barrick Gold is at 17.52, and Franco Nevada has a forward priced earnings at 132.09. Forward priced earnings ratios are in the table, and with the lowest value, Barrick Gold gets the second point. Third factor we have is the annual revenue growth. As investors, we want to find that the revenues of a company are on a steady increase. We will take the results of the four most recent years and compare them one by one. If revenue was on the increase from one year to the next, we will consider it as a +1, and if it was on the decrease, it will be a +0. Then we sum the results up to a minimum of 0 and a maximum of 3, and in the end, the stock with the highest sum gets a point for this factor. We have annual revenues for Newmont Corporation, and going into 2018 there was a decrease to $7.25 billion US. Then into 2019 we had an increase to $9.74 billion, and going into 2020 there was another increase to $11.5 billion. So with 2 increases and 1 decrease in annual revenues, we get a sum of 2. Annual revenues for Barrick Gold, and going into 2018 there was a decrease to $7.24 billion US. Then into 2019 we had an increase to $9.72 billion, and going into 2020 there was another increase to $12.6 billion. So with 2 increases and 1 decrease in annual revenues, we again get a sum of 2. Revenues for Franco Nevada, and going into 2018 there was a decrease to $650 million US. Then into 2019 there was an increase to $841 million, and going into 2020 revenue increased to $1.02 billion. So with 2 increases and 1 decrease in annual revenues, we again get a sum of 2. Results for the annual revenue growth factor are in the table, and with equal sums of 2, no company is assigned a point for this factor. Fourth factor is the price to sales ratio. It is calculated by taking the company's market cap and dividing it by the trailing 12 months worth of sales. The formula suggests to be looking for a company with a low market cap and a high result in sales. So in the end, the stock with the lowest price to sales ratio gets a point for this factor. Newmont has a price to sales at 4.7 to 1. Price to sales for Barrick is at 3.18, and Franco Nevada has a price to sales at 26.68. Price to sales ratios are in the table, and with the lowest value, Barrick Gold gets another point. Fifth factor is return on equity. It is calculated by taking the net income and dividing it by the shareholders' equity. A high ROE shows that the company is well managed and that money from investors are efficiently handled. So in the end, the stock with the highest return on equity percentage gets a point for this factor. For Newmont, the return on equity is at 10.04%. Return on equity for Barrick is at 12.11%, and Franco Nevada has a return on equity at 11.38%. Return on equity percentages are in the table, and with the highest value, Barrick gets another point. Sixth factor are the last 4 quarterly earnings results. When a company reports earnings, they are compared to expectations of analysts. So earnings can either beat expectations, meet them, or miss them. We will consider that beating expectations is a +1, meeting +0.5, and missing 0. Then we sum the results up to a minimum of 0 and a maximum of 4, and in the end, the stock with the highest sum gets a point for this factor. We have quarterly earnings for Newmont Corporation, and Q2 of 2020 beat expectations, Q3 beat, Q4 beat expectations, and Q1 of 2021 missed. So with 3 beats and 1 miss in quarterly earnings, we get a sum of 3. Earnings for Barrick, and Q2 of 2020 beat expectations, Q3 beat, Q4 beat expectations, and Q1 of 2021 beat. So with 4 beats in quarterly earnings, we get a sum of 4. Quarterly earnings for Franco Nevada, and Q2 of 2020 met expectations, Q3 beat, Q4 beat expectations, and Q1 of 2021 beat. So with 3 beats and 1 meet in quarterly earnings, we get a sum of 3.5. Results for the last 4 quarterly earnings factor are in the table, and with a sum of 4, another point goes to Barrick Gold. Seventh factor is the current ratio. It is calculated by taking the current assets and dividing them by the current liabilities. As investors, we want to find that the company is able to cover its debts with assets, but also that they are actually being leveraged. So in the end, the stock with the highest current ratio between 1.5 and 3 gets a point for this factor. For Newmont, the current ratio is at 2.4. Current ratio for Barrick Gold is at 3.77, and Franco Nevada has a current ratio at 16.39. Current ratios are in the table, and with the highest value under 3, Newmont gets the first point. The last factor is the dividend yield. It is calculated by taking the annual dividend per share and dividing it by the share price. A high yield may suggest that profits are being shared with shareholders, and that is a great passive income source scores that we as investors are looking for. So in the end, the stock with the highest dividend yield percentage gets a point for this factor. Newmont is paying an annual dividend of $2.20 per share, which is a yield of 3.15%. The annual dividend for Barrick Gold is at 92 cents per share, which is a yield of 3.98%. And Franco Nevada is paying an annual dividend of $1.20 per share, which is a yield of 0.79%. Dividend yields are in the table, and with the highest percentage, Barrick Gold gets another point. We can calculate the results, so Newmont has 1 point, Barrick Gold 6, and Franco Nevada 0. This means that with a sum of 6, Barrick Gold Corporation is considered the winner of this comparison. And that was it. If you got value or new ideas, then make sure to push that thumbs up, it helps the channel a lot. Now there's a question for you, are you buying any of the gold stocks yourself? Share your best picks in a comment below. If you are interested to know exactly when I buy or sell any stock, then consider the options on Patreon. Last week we did a stock comparison on copper miners with BHP Group, Rio Tinto and Freeport-McMoRan. And there is also an update for the investing portfolio where we are just under $3,000. If you are interested in any of these, then click on a video current on the screen. And that was it from my side, thank you for watching and I will be seeing y'all in the next one.